7 years after the release of Naruto Storm 4, 7 years after confirming that would be their last Naruto game, CyberConnect 2 launched the sequel and everyone wished they didn't. Naruto Storm Connections had one of the worst receptions that I remember in anime game history, the most disappointing game of 2023, but now we're at the end of Season 1 of DLC, so it's time to look back at how this game launched and how it improved, and also how it compares to all the other Naruto games. Over the course of 2 years, I played every Naruto game and ranked them on a tier list, and just when I thought I was done, they pulled me back in once again. Now that we have a new Naruto game to rank, it's time to go back to the Ranking of Naruto games. Naruto Storm Connections is easily one of the most hated Naruto games in history, mostly because it launched in a state that was missing a lot of features. And if we look at the series as a whole, it felt like a Storm 4 DLC, mainly because it lacked a big flagship innovation. Storm 2 had its amazing story mode. Generations added the substitution bar. Storm 3 had instant awakenings, not you. Storm 4 added leader switching, and now Connections added what? Simple controls? In reality, Storm Connections changed a lot compared to Storm 4. They added combo scaling, reworked a lot of combos to give players more combo freedom, gave a second jutsu to all characters, which meant everyone also has 2 assists now, even if it did replace everyone's tilt move, and made counterattacks essentially free. In total, more than 50 changes were made from Storm 4 to Connections, but the ones I just mentioned are probably the biggest ones. So you can understand how this felt like a big gameplay systems patch rather than a full new game that you must buy at full price. Something similar can be said about its roster, because while this game was advertised as having the biggest Naruto roster ever, the truth is it was just Naruto Storm 4 plus 10 new characters. So technically they weren't lying, but also all it took was 10 new characters. I mean, even now, after a full season of DLC, we only have 15 new characters that weren't playable in Storm 4. And on top of that, it launched lacking a massive feature: you couldn't play with your friends online. Imagine releasing a game in 2023 without a way to invite your friends to play. It was ranked matches or unranked matches against random opponents only. And to be fair, they did release lobbies only 2 months later, but in gamer years, they might as well be a decade. So the reputation for this game was already set in stone. And not being able to invite friends wasn't the game's only problem online. Despite having years of player feedback and requests to penalize players for rage quitting, at launch there were no penalties at all. And so rage quits were very abundant. But like most things in this game, it took them a while, but they finally implemented some penalties. If you rage quit now, you get straight up a temporary ban from playing online depending on how often you quit, along with some ranked points penalty. That should have been there at launch for sure, but I'm happy it got patched in at some point. And in a way, that's what makes the Storm Connection story even sadder, because by the time all of that stuff got fixed, players had already made their mind up about the game. It became cool to hate on Naruto Storm Connections, and some of that hate is clearly justified. I mean, the game was rushed, it was launched incomplete, but I also think this game actually has the best netcode in the entire Storm series, which makes it the best Storm game to play online today, and that's something that people don't want to admit. If you remember the previous ranking episodes, on every single Storm title, you would see bad netcode amongst the downsides. It was easily my biggest gripe with the series, but for this game, CC2 finally said, fine, we give up. And that's why you see Microsoft's Azure PlayFab every time you boot the game up. Not only that, but something Connections has over all the previous Storm games is balanced patches and DLC updates. The state the game launched in was way worse than the state the game is in right now. Storm 4 competitive, you may look back at it with rose-tinted glasses, half of that roster is banned in tournaments. For Naruto Storm Connections, that's not the case. I mean, currently, people think we should ban a couple of characters. I mean, puppet users and pre-time skip Naruto seems to be a problem. But this is something that has changed over the course of different metas, different balance patches. It is constantly evolving. And in my opinion, this is why they tried to resell you essentially what was the same game as Naruto Storm 4. They built this one to last, to get updated over time. So in their minds, it was fine to just resell you the same game because this one was going to get a lot better over time. And everyone loves Storm 4. So why not make Storm 4 the long-lasting Naruto experience? I think that's what they should have done with Storm 4, not a new title. Because I think players also wanted that. They wanted the long-lasting Naruto experience. They just didn't want to pay for the same base game again. That said, I am reviewing this game today after an entire season has been released, and I think I can safely say that between the netcode, the balance patches, and the lobbies, which still crash a lot admittedly, but are the best that a Storm series has ever seen, this is my favorite online multiplayer Storm game. If I had to pick a Storm game to play nothing but online for the rest of my life, I would pick Connections in a heartbeat. And that is kind of a specific request, but it's still something that a lot of players just do. They just just boot up the game and go online. And I think this is the best one to do that with. And I'm not saying the netcode is good, but at least it's not gonna go on the downsides this time. It's good enough to not get mentioned, I guess. Congrats, CC2, you finally achieved mid netcode. But it's not only my favorite because of those objectively very good points that I just made, I also may have forgotten how to play the previous games. I made fun of the simple controls, but the truth is, I got so used to them, I don't think I can actually go back. In my opinion, this is simply a better control scheme for Storm that just had a terrible name for it. Yeah, you can enable all sorts of assists if you just want to mash circle and have the game on autoplay, but if you turn all of that stuff off, I would say this is more of a modern take on Storm controls. They could have totally done it like Sparking Zero did and called this standard, while the other ones would be called classic. The one disadvantage you have for simple controls is how you charge chakra. You have to sit idly for half a second, so you can actually charge faster on classic, but it's so close to being equal, and to me, this control scheme just makes a lot more sense in my head. But Naruto Storm games are not just about the online experience, even though that's what a lot of players focus on. They are very much known for their single-player campaigns, and for a very long time, I was single-player only on the Storm series. Part of the reason why Shinobi Striker had a mixed reception was because it focused mainly on online play, which left a lot of Storm fans annoyed by how lacking the single-player content was. And here in the ranking of Naruto games, we like to take all aspects into consideration. Storm games are known for some of the best story modes in anime game history, so how did Connections cater to that player base? They didn't. They fumbled. So bad. Connections has 2 single-player modes, and I kind of like one of them, but the other one is probably the worst the series has ever seen, and that is saying a lot. History mode is absolutely worthless. It's a very abridged retelling of the entire Naruto story, full of nothing but recycled encounters from the previous games. They straight up reused previous fights, quick time events, cutscenes, and it is all upscaled, but all reused anyway. In between these fights, we have every gamer's favorite, slideshows. And they didn't even bring over some of the more unique events in previous games, some of the more unique boss fights, or the free roaming, or the horde battles from the previous Storm games that fans actually loved. So you're basically playing recycled content from previous games, but not even the best stuff. So that whole game mode is a huge bummer. Can you believe they actually tried to sell us this game mode as if it had all the previous games combined? And they call my videos clickbait. On the other hand, the special story is quite good in my opinion. Now this tells an original story with Boruto as the protagonist. There are some narrative hooks here that are quite common to Naruto filler, a little bit overused in my opinion, like there's a mystery Uchiha causing trouble, because we never saw that before. And making new villains is expensive, so let's just make Naruto evil, and the main villain just wants to do what Pain did, even says it himself, he's very pain-pilled like that. But outside of those usual tropes, I found the story to be very well written. It has some cool plot twists, and it does have some unique boss fights and encounters that make it enjoyable to play through, except for that one chapter where they make you play through Naruto's memories, because they needed to pad out this story mode a bit more. There's no free roaming in this game mode, which is probably a feature that some Naruto fans will miss, but with how bad the free roaming was becoming with every Storm game, I honestly did not miss it at all. That said, this special story is hardly enough to justify buying a whole new Storm game. So even today, despite me praising the netcode and the patches and all of that, I still don't think this game is worth full price. It needed a better single player experience, and if history mode was good, then maybe yeah, but the special story on its own is not enough. I mean, would you pay full price for the Mecha Naruto story in Storm Revolution? Would you pay full price for the Boruto story in Storm 4 Road to Boruto? Because it's kind of that size. It's a good story, but short nonetheless. The game had a rough start, and a lot of its downsides are still present today, but a lot of them got fixed too, and I don't think the game gets enough credit for that, because well, a lot of people had already quit by the time those fixes came in. And I think this game is very easy to compare to something like Storm Generations, which was also pretty terrible in the single player department, but made great changes to the combat that would improve the series for the rest of the time. So as a package, I am actually gonna rank Connections above Generations. At least it has a good special story, and it has the best online the series has ever seen. And I hope this game serves as a cautionary tale, because I know that CyberConnect 2 did not want to release a game like this. I know some people at Bandai didn't either, but working with license holders is tough when they don't understand that these things have huge consequences. And the simple fact that they rushed this game to launch may have ruined the Storm name forever. That said, we are done with the ranking for now, at least until they release another Naruto game, but if you enjoyed this video, here's a playlist for the full ranking of Naruto games. Thanks for watching. Bye.